What if everything you believe, everything society ever taught you, is nothing but a cage? Think about it. From the moment you were born, the world began shaping you. Parents told you what was right and wrong. Teachers told you what success looks like. Religion, culture, and tradition whispered rules about who you should be, how you should live, and even what you should desire. And without questioning, you absorbed it all, layer after layer, until the voice of society became louder than your own. But here's the disturbing truth. Cages don't always look like prisons. Sometimes they look like comfort. They feel like safety. They disguise themselves as normal life. You work, you consume, you follow the same path everyone else follows, never realizing that the bars around you were built out of borrowed beliefs. Nietzsche called this the tragedy of the herd. Most people never ask if their values are truly theirs. They never dare to break free from the invisible walls around them. They would rather be comfortable slaves to convention than face the terrifying freedom of thinking for themselves. And maybe you feel that tension too. The quiet suspicion that your life is not entirely your own. That your choices are echoes of voices you never chose to follow. That deep down, you are living a script that was written for you, not by you. So here is the dangerous question Nietzsche forces us to face. If society's truths are nothing but a cage, do you have the courage to step outside? Thinking differently sounds exciting, even heroic. But the truth, it isn't safe. It's dangerous. It's lonely. And it demands a price most people are too afraid to pay. When you begin to think for yourself, you step outside the warm circle of the herd. Suddenly, the friends who once understood you look at you with suspicion. The family that raised you may call you rebellious, ungrateful, or strange. Society will not applaud you for questioning its rules. It will punish you for it. Because every system, every tradition, survives only if people stop asking questions. Nietzsche knew this. He saw that true independence doesn't give you applause, it gives you exile. To think differently is to walk a road without a map, without guarantees, without the comfort of belonging. It is to risk being misunderstood, mocked, or even forgotten. And yet, this risk is the essence of being human. What separates us from the herd is not obedience, but the terrifying freedom to create meaning for ourselves, to dare even when the world turns its back. So if you feel the pull to break free, don't expect safety. Expect struggle. Expect solitude. But also expect something else. Something rarer than safety. Expect the chance to become who you truly are. Why Nietzsche demands we think differently. Nietzsche was not interested in comfort. He was interested in truth, and truth for him was rarely found in the crowd. He believed that most people live inside what he called the herd mentality, a way of thinking where we follow the majority, not because we truly agree, but because it feels safe. The herd promises belonging. It tells us, stay close, don't question, don't stand out. And in exchange, it offers the illusion of security. But Nietzsche saw the danger hidden beneath that comfort. The herd does not want you to be yourself. It wants you to be the same. Blind obedience, he argued, was one of the greatest threats to human potential. When we obey without thinking, when we adopt beliefs without questioning, we lose the very thing that makes us unique. Our ability to create, to challenge, to rise above. Nietzsche was obsessed with breaking this conformity. Not because he believed everyone should live in chaos, but because he believed that true strength, true freedom, only emerges when we dare to think for ourselves. He warned that if we only echo the voices around us, we become nothing more than shadows, repeating the same patterns generation after generation. For Nietzsche, conformity was a kind of spiritual death. It dulled the mind, silenced the soul, and replaced authenticity with imitation. The herd may protect you from standing alone, but it also chains you to mediocrity. That is why he demanded we think differently, to question what is normal, to look at the values society hands us and ask, are these truly mine, or are they simply borrowed? Because the moment we stop asking, the moment we stop daring to break free, we become prisoners inside the very cage we never realized we built. Nietzsche never promised comfort. He promised challenge. He believed that most people don't really think for themselves. They inherit ideas, repeat traditions, and call it truth. But real thought, independent thought, is dangerous. It asks you to stand apart. It asks you to strip away the safety of the crowd. And that is exactly what Nietzsche demands. He does not offer soothing advice or easy wisdom. Instead, he gives us 3 rules. Rules that are not designed to make life easier, but to make it more real. Rules that break illusions, expose weakness, and force us to confront who we actually are when all the borrowed masks are gone. These are not rules for belonging. They are rules for becoming. Nietzsche knew that only a few would dare to follow them, because to do so means walking away from comfort, from blind obedience, from the warm embrace of the herd. So here is the promise. If you listen, if you dare to take these rules seriously, you will not find safety. You will find freedom. Not the freedom society sells you, but the kind that begins when you finally think for yourself. Nietzsche believed that the greatest prison is not built from walls, but from people. It's the herd, the collective instinct that pulls us to move, think, and even feel the way everyone else does. The herd tells us what to value, what to chase, and what to fear. And without even noticing, most of us obey. This is the herd instinct, the deep, almost invisible force inside us that craves approval, safety, and belonging. It whispers, don't stand out. Don't question too much. Just follow. And for a while, it feels safe. You are rewarded with acceptance, with the comfort of being normal. But Nietzsche saw this as the death of the individual, because the moment you surrender to the herd, you stop thinking for yourself. You stop being yourself. The crowd gives you ready-made answers, so you never have to ask dangerous questions. It gives you morals, so you never have to create your own values. It gives you an identity, so you never have to face the terrifying task of building one. In short, the herd saves you from freedom, because freedom is heavy, lonely, and often unbearable. But Nietzsche's challenge is ruthless. Destroy the herd inside you. Not by running away from people, but by breaking the instinct that chains you to their approval. Real thinking, he said, begins the moment you dare to step aside, to risk isolation, to be willing to carry the burden of your own mind. It is not easy. To leave the herd is to lose certainty. You no longer have a map telling you what is right or wrong, what is valuable or worthless. But this is where true life begins. Because in the silence of that isolation, you finally hear your own voice, the one drowned out by the noise of the crowd. Nietzsche reminds us that greatness never comes from the herd. The herd survives, but it never creates, never risks, never dares. To live as part of it is to live small, safe, and untested. To step away is to face danger, yes, but also the possibility of becoming more than what society allowed you to be. So the question is this: do you choose the safety of the herd, or the terrifying freedom of your own path? Nietzsche once said that philosophy is the dangerous art of smashing idols. But his idols weren't statues of stone or gold. They were ideas, beliefs so sacred, so untouchable, that no one dared to question them. Religion, morality, tradition, even truth itself. These are the idols we kneel before without even realizing it. For Nietzsche, the danger of idols is not their power, but our obedience. We inherit them like chains, passed from generation to generation. They tell us what to believe before we ever learn to think. They whisper rules into our conscience. Be good. Be humble. Obey. Believe. And because they feel ancient and holy, we rarely stop to ask, why? But Nietzsche's challenge is merciless. Every idol must be brought into the light. Every untouchable belief must be questioned, tested, even shattered. Because only when the false gods fall can we discover what is real. Take morality, for example. We're told that good means meekness, obedience, self-sacrifice. But Nietzsche asked, who decided this? Who benefits from a morality that punishes strength, pride, and independence? His answer was sharp. Morality, as we know it, is not eternal. It was invented to tame the strong and keep the herd in line. And then there's truth. We imagine truth as something pure, unquestionable. But Nietzsche provoked us to consider, what if our truths are just illusions we've forgotten are illusions? What if they are simply human inventions, polished over centuries, now worshipped as divine? To think differently, Nietzsche said, is to become an idol breaker. To hold even your most sacred beliefs to the hammer. Not because everything is false, but because only by smashing the illusions can the deeper reality emerge. This is the terrifying part. You may find that the things you worshipped, the rules, the morals, the truths, were never yours. They were masks, disguises, comfortable lies. And beneath them, what remains is raw, uncertain, and unfinished. But Nietzsche insisted this destruction is not the end. It is the beginning. Because once the idols fall, you stand face to face with freedom. The freedom to create your own values, to define your own meaning, to build your life not on inherited illusions, but on the fire of your own mind. The herd clings to its idols because they promise safety. The independent thinker smashes them because he craves truth even when it burns. So ask yourself, what idols are you still bowing to? And what would it cost you to break them? For Nietzsche, destruction was never enough. Smashing the herd, breaking the idols, these were only the first steps. The real test, the most dangerous task of all, is this: create your own values. Most people live by borrowed rules. They inherit morality from religion, purpose from tradition, meaning from society. They walk through life with a second-hand compass, convinced it points north, never realizing it was designed to keep them small. Nietzsche called this the tragedy of the herd. People don't live, they conform. But he demanded something far more radical. Do not just say no. Do not just rebel. Create. Become the author of your own law, the architect of your own meaning. To Nietzsche, this was the mark of the free spirit, someone who dares to stand without the crutches of ready-made truths and instead builds new ones from within. It's a terrifying freedom, because when you reject society's values, there's no map left, no guide, no authority, no easy answers. You face the abyss of choice, and in that abyss, you must forge your own compass. But Nietzsche believed that only here, in the chaos of freedom, do we touch real life. To create your own values is to take ownership of existence itself. It means asking not, what should I believe, but what do I choose to believe? Not what is the meaning of life, but what meaning will I give it? This is not comfort, it's burden. Yet Nietzsche saw it as the highest calling, to transform yourself from a follower into a creator, to live not as a shadow of the herd, but as a flame that burns with its own light. The herd obeys, the idol worshiper kneels. But the creator, he dares to stand alone, to say, this is my truth, this is my way, this is my life. So ask yourself, are you living by values handed to you, or ones you've created with your own hands? Thinking differently sounds bold. It sounds liberating. But Nietzsche knew the truth. Independence does not come cheaply. The moment you step away from the herd, you also step away from its comfort. You lose the warmth of agreement, the safety of belonging. To think for yourself is to walk into silence. Friends may turn distant. Society may brand you as arrogant, difficult, or even dangerous. Because when you question the rules, you unsettle those who depend on them. And nothing threatens the herd more than someone who dares to leave it. Nietzsche warned that the path of the free spirit is steep and often lonely. The crowd calls you lost, while you are only searching. The world calls you reckless, while you are only honest. To break conformity is to accept misunderstanding as your companion. But here is the paradox. In that struggle, you become real. Comfort keeps us asleep, but loneliness has the power to wake us. The pain of isolation forces you to ask, what do I actually believe? What is worth standing for, even if I stand alone? This is the hidden cost of truth. It is not just freedom, it is responsibility. When you reject borrowed values, the burden of meaning falls entirely on your shoulders. No priest, no tradition, no crowd can carry it for you. And that weight is heavy. So the question remains, a question Nietzsche forces us to confront. Are you ready to face the price of truth? Because to think differently is not just daring, it is dangerous. Yet for those who accept the cost, it is also the only path to becoming fully alive. Most people do not choose freedom. They choose comfort. Comfort feels safe. It is the soft blanket of conformity, the steady rhythm of fitting in. You think what others think, you live as others live, and no one questions you. The herd protects you, but it also cages you. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He believed that comfort is the shadow that haunts us. It tempts us with ease, but robs us of authenticity. When you stay inside the herd, you avoid risk, yes, but you also avoid life. You survive, but you do not live. Freedom, on the other hand, is dangerous. To think originally is to step outside the circle of approval. It is to risk being judged, mocked, even hated. Freedom offers no guarantees, no applause, no ready-made answers. It strips you bare and leaves you standing in the storm of your own choices. And yet, Nietzsche insisted, only in that storm does life become real. The individual who dares to risk freedom may stumble, may fall, may even lose everything familiar. But in that risk lies authenticity. To live by your own compass, to create your own path, is to step into a reality deeper than comfort can ever offer. So here lies the choice each of us must face. Remain in the shadow of safety, or risk the danger of freedom. One path keeps you warm, but asleep. The other path may wound you, isolate you, even terrify you. But it is also the only path that makes you fully alive. Nietzsche's challenge echoes across time. Will you choose the safety of conformity, or dare to live dangerously free? Nietzsche never wanted to hand you comfortable advice. His words were not meant to be repeated like slogans, but lived like fire. His 3 rules: destroy the herd inside you, question every idol, create your own values, are not lessons you memorize. They are mirrors, and the reflection they show is not always flattering. It's easy to admire Nietzsche from a distance, to nod at his defiance, to quote his warnings about conformity. But the harder question is this: do you dare to step outside the herd when the herd is your own family, your own friends, your own culture? Do you dare to question idols when those idols are the very beliefs that give you security? Do you dare to create values when it means standing alone, misunderstood, with nothing to guide you but yourself? The mirror does not care what you say. It cares what you choose. Most will glance at it, nod, and walk away. But Nietzsche's challenge is to stand before that mirror and not look away, even when what you see unsettles you. So the final provocation is not a question of knowledge. It is a question of courage. Will you live by borrowed truths, or dare to risk the burden of your own? Nietzsche has already given you the rules. The only question left is whether you have the strength to live them. This is where most videos would end, with a call to action. A reminder to subscribe, to like, to follow. But the Thought Foundry is not about collecting numbers. It's about collecting questions. Questions that disturb, that unravel the stories we've been told, that force us to confront what we'd rather avoid. Nietzsche believed philosophy was not something to be studied, it was something to be lived. And here, that's the spirit we carry. Each video is not an answer, but an opening. A mirror you can't escape, even when the screen goes dark. If today's reflections left you unsettled, let them linger. Don't rush to silence the discomfort. Sit with it. Because in that unease lies the beginning of truth. Thinking differently is never easy. It is sharp, it is lonely, it cuts against the grain of everything familiar. But it is also the only path to freedom, to authenticity, to becoming who you truly are. The Thought Foundry is not an escape from the world. It is a forge, a place where ideas are tested, where illusions are melted down, where we shape new ways of seeing. Each time you return, the invitation is the same. Don't just watch, dare to think. So as you step away from this screen, take the question with you. What belief, what habit, what shadow will you challenge today? The Foundry does not give you the answer, it gives you the fire. What you create with it is up to you.